Why, hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, as always. And today we have a very special episode, my friends. I am going to be today working with my friend and another friend of the YouTube channel, Veyron. So me and Veyron are going to do a little work, and we're going to show you something you probably don't know about RiseToWar. Yes, the phone game. And today, if you are a fan of RiseToWar, and you might not know about this curious little extra thing they have, it's more of a lore thing, but we're going to talk about it. And it's the relationship tab, or it's kind of like a relationship web. It shows the connections of all the commanders, whether they be evil or good. So we're going to talk about it today, and here's Veyron for you.
Hey guys, Veyron here. Super happy to be working with Zollin, Voice of the Rings, on this one. We talked about getting together for a collaboration and it finally happened, and I'm glad that Zollin could host.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to have you, Veyron. It's going to be a real blast. We're going to really have a lot of fun today. So guys, with no further ado, let us begin. I would like to quick shout out and just thank all of the subscribers and supporters of both channels, and to my subscribers of Voice of the Rings, hey, check out Veyron's channel down there. I'll link it down there and go give him a subscribe. He's pretty awesome. I love his content he does for RiseToWar and Lord of the Rings stuff. So again, and if you're new to RiseToWar, I do a lot of Lord of the Rings content on many games, mostly voiceovers and Lord of the Rings Online and many other lore things and stuff. But again, I do love RiseToWar as well. That's what we have the common fun thing to do. So let's pop over here to the tavern and continue on our trip today, my friends. All right, so we're going to start with showing you where to get it. So I'm going to go ahead and let Veyron show you that right now. So Veyron, show him where you navigate to the location.
So to get started, I wanted to show you guys how to get to the relation tab for a given character. So in order to get there, the first thing you want to do is go into the commander section, scroll down to whoever you're looking for the relationship tab. Click this little lore icon here, and then this icon here, that is the relationship tab, and it'll give you the overview of that given character's relationships. We also wanted to give a rundown of some of the lore behind all this, but I'm going to let Zollin do most of the heavy lifting in that aspect.
Awesome, sweet. Thank you very much, Veyron. All right, so as he told you, bottom right corner of the commander tab, whatever hero you're selected on. So we're going to go there ourselves, as he just showed us. And now we're going to go over to the Commander tab. I'm going to go ahead and start with Gimli, because he's one of my favorite characters in RiseToWar and in the lore of Tolkien's world, right? So again, we won't go into deep lore on every character, just a real quick skim, basically like info here, but we're not going to read every single one of these profiles unless there's characters that they made up, which Veyron will go over one that he will talk about. So again, here's where we find the connecting tabs, which is fantastic. All right, so the main thing now that is very interesting also about the tabs is that when you click on them, it actually will move to that particular character and then show you his links. So it's like a massive web, kind of like they show, like, you know, the interweb when they describe that, right, with all the different bubbles and your connections to other people and so on and so forth. Similar idea, all right? But again, we're going to start with Gimli. So, Gimli, son of Glóin, my friends, a very great champion. He is a dwarf of the Lonely Mountain, as you all know. He's a very cool dwarf, and he has many different friends, right? As we know from the story, his distant relative is Ballen. In fact, he's related to most of the dwarves of the company from the Hobbit, right, book. He's, of course, close friends with Aragorn, or Aragon, however you like to say it. I will quickly point out that some people get about saying Aragon versus Aragorn, right? Well, I've heard Tolkien say Aragon, right, in some things, but I know, don't freak out at us, but I heard Veyron say Aragon too, and that's the way I like to say it, but I also will occasionally say Aragorn, kind of back and forth. Now, Aragorn, these are both the same character, they're just different abilities, right? One is when he becomes king, right, and the other one is when he is not king, right? Aragorn, the second, right? All right, so that's all you need to know there. So again, we'll go through this quickly. He's friends with Frodo and Sam, obviously because of the Fellowship, and Merry and Pippin, who are combined heroes in this game. He's, of course, friends with Gandalf the Gray. He's friends with Boromir. He's also friends with Legolas. That is probably his closest friend, is definitely Legolas, right? Hence his title, Elf Friend. Gimli Elf Friend. That is his title later in the books. And then, of course, Gandalf the White. Again, same person, two different stages of his building of character. All right, sweet. Now that we've done him, we're just going to jump right through. We're going to do a few more dwarves. Dane Ironfoot, all right, of the Lonely Mountain. He is the king of the dwarves later on, right? Thorin Oakenshield II, the second Thorin, is the first Thorin to become king of Erebor when they retake it. But of course, sadly, in the books, The Hobbit, he is killed, right? And so is his people so his cousin, Dane Ironfoot, who is related to him through the family royal line, becomes King of Erebor after him, who was also the Lord of the Iron Hills before that. So, because he was basically royalty. He is a very awesome character. In the future, I might do a lore video on this character for our channel, but it's very, very cool. So again, that is why he became king. What are his relationships? Well, distant relative to, I wouldn't even say distant. He's his cousin. So I don't know if that's really, maybe it's more of a distant cousin. And a distant relative to Dwalin, right? The dwarf. And distant to Ballen, right? Which are brothers. We will talk about that in a minute. He also allies later with Thranduil, King of Mirkwood, of the Elven of Mirkwood. All right, sweet. Now we're going to just keep going down this line because it'll be a little easier for me. And in fact, you can go through other commanders, but I don't want to lose track because this will take forever otherwise. All right, so Dwalin. We'll talk about Dwalin real quickly. Dwalin, you know him? You've seen him in the movies? I love it. They did resemble him after the movies, which is cool. He's a very cool dwarf. He is super cool. So he's a fighter. He's a warrior. Not much to say about him unless we go into a deeper lore video. I don't want to bore you too much. Again, he's the elder brother of Ballen. A lot of people don't know that from the movies, but he is his older brother. I'm reverse that. Ballen is the older brother. He's the younger brother. Hence why it says elder brother is Ballen. And then he's friends with Ori, but also they say friends here because it's really distant, right? But he is a distant relative to Thorin Oakenshield II and to Dane in that matter. So he is closer in the royal line of the Longbeards clan. All right, so we're now going to continue on. We are going to do Ballen. All right, Ballen, pretty simple. Another wise warrior. They betrayed Ballen as very old, almost the oldest out of the group in the Hobbit movies. Now, again, he was one of the oldest. In fact, I think he might have been second oldest. But Thorin was actually it was like 90 years. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head right now, unless we do a full lore video, 90-ish years older. Thorin was very old. I liked how they betrayed Ballen as the oldest kind of wise one in the movies, and I loved his friendship with Bilbo. Oh, wasn't that fantastic, my friends? I love that part. All right, anyway, he's a distant relative of Gimli. Distant relative of Thorin Oakenshield, of course. His younger brother is, as we already said, friends with Ori. And again, this web will change as they add heroes, I'm assuming. And distant relative. Very similar to Dwalin, obviously. All right. So now, Imrahil. This will be a fun one to talk about, my friends. So Imrahil is the Prince of Delamroth. They do not talk about Delamroth in the movies very much, you guys. But Delamroth, if for your information, by the way, if you're new to, if you played a RiseToWar and you're not a big Tolkien fan, you don't know this lore, this is why we're doing quick little overviews real fast. Imrahil, Prince of Delamroth, is actually sort of in the line of Gondor, but not enough where he can become king. But he is of a royal line of Delamroth. Delamroth is actually like another city within Gondor's borders. A lot of people don't know this. Everyone in the movies see Minas Tirith and Osgiliath, and they're like, oh, well, that's why Rohan had to come save them. Well, actually, Rohan did come to save them, but so did Delamroth. Oh, Delamroth just had less people, right? And Rohan was the crucial nail in the coffin for the enemy of Sauron, right? All right, so anyway, he's the 22nd Prince of Delamroth, as it says here, a historical ally of Gondor, and then it's got a bunch of information. You can go right through there. You're welcome to read it yourself now you know where the tab is. He is the son-in-law of Eomer, which is very, very interesting, actually. I did not know that. Interesting. And he's a brother-in-law of Denethor from the movies. So he is in the royal line. He is. But again, he's the brother-in-law. Was Denethor part of the royal line, or was he a steward? Pop quiz. He was the steward, right? He was not an actual king bloodline, right? So again, that's why Aragon becomes king, Aragorn II, and not, like the Prince of Delamroth, right? Who actually becomes a great ally of Aragon in the movies. All right, moving on. Now, Hiragon here. I believe that's how you say his name. That's always how I've said it. Hiragon is a Gondorian messenger. As the Battle of the Pelennor Fields drew near, he has taken, tasked by Denethor II to journey to Rohan to present the Red Arrow of Gondor to Theodon. Okay, so a little different than the movies, right? In the movies, what happens? Gandalf has Pippin light beacons. I don't even know if those beacons existed in the books, off the top of my head. I don't think they did, but I really like the beacons part in the movie, so great for visuals, right? But in the story, there's a red arrow, and he is the messenger. So that's where they pulled this character out as a hero for the game. I think that's very cool. Let's look at his tree real quick. His lord, Denethor. Not much. He's just a random messenger of Gondor. But a cool guy. Great hero. I think he's cool. Tier 1. All right. Ori. Okay, this is going to be a fun one, my friends. Ori is one of the dwarves who accompanied Thorin on his expedition to the Lonely Mountain. and also part in the Battle of 5 Armies, which you all know about. We're not going to go into that lore. We're going to talk about the relations. All right. He's obviously friends with them, and a distant relative of Thorin Oakenshield. Again, I would venture to say he's also probably a distant relative of these, since he's a Longbeard, like all the other ones. But again, when the tree gets big enough, you know, his 6th, 7th cousin removed kind of doesn't really matter at that point. Anyway, all right, so Helldia, the Elven Archer. This is a cool one, my friends. Alrighty, so Helldia, his lord is Galadriel, right? All right, again, pretty simple. He's a wonderful character in the books. I really like Haldir. In fact, I almost like him portrayed in the books more than the movies, even though I felt like the movie Haldir was still excellent. So he is, Haldir is a Sylvan elf and one of the March Wardens of the realm of Lothlorien. He protects the northern borders of Lorien Forest under the guidance of Galadriel. All right, sweet. There's a little background of him. Sweet, sweet. All right, we move on. Okay. This will be a fun one to do, my friends, and this will lead into one of the ones that Veyron is going to cover. All right, so we have Elrohir. That is how you say it. It's a little bit tricky. Elrohir. Yes, it is. It's a very tricky one. But anyway, Elrohir is one of the twin brothers and older brother of Arwin. So, interesting. I believe that they were twins. It says younger brother. That is interesting. Not sure. I thought they were twins, but their father is Elrond of Rivendell, as you all know. All right, excellent, excellent. So, and then we will jump straight into his younger brother here, Elladan. All right. So again, I believe Elladan and Elrohir were twins. I'm gonna look that up after, but why don't you guys just check that for yourself? I'm sure we can Google it. All right. Anyway, moving on. And now we are going to talk about their younger sister, Arwen. Right? By the way, something they don't show here in this tree that I would like to add is that Elrohir and Elladan were very close friends and basically older brothers to Aragorn, right? In Rivendell, when he was growing up in Rivendell. So that's something they don't show here. I would show as like adopted brothers or something, but maybe they don't want to confuse people in the RiseToWar game. So anyway, there's a lot more complexity, but we'll go keep going. So now we're going to have Veyron show you Arwen. So take it away, Veyron.
Next up, we have Arwen. Arwen has 2 elder twin brothers in Elrohir and Elladan, who help the Rangers of the North counter the plans of Sauron and Eriador, thus helping the Fellowship of the Ring succeed in their mission, quest, thing. Her grandmother Galadriel is shown above, with her lover Aragorn, and eventual husband King Aragorn shown in the bottom left and top right, respectively. Arwen, being half-elven, knew that she would be giving up her mortality in order to stay with Aragorn. The Witch King is shown at the bottom as her enemy, even though she would have had many other enemies as well, but she did stop some of the ring race in the movies from being able to capture Frodo and the ring. In the bottom right is her father, Elrond.
Awesome, Veyron. All right, so again, one thing that is interesting that a lot of people don't realize is that they don't say here is that Elrond actually married the daughter of Galadriel. That is why she's the grandmother. I always thought that very interesting. And again, in the movies, Arwen was not the one to do it, even though I really do like how Arwen was portrayed doing that in the movies. I thought it was really cool. But technically it was Glorfindel, but still, Arwen's an awesome character. And by the way, just because she didn't do that in the books, her part in the books are still fantastic, and she's a very strong woman elf. So I really like that character a lot. So thank you so much, Veyron. All right, we are going to move on now. We've done most of these characters actually already here. So we're gonna hit up, we're gonna go straight to Elrond. Just click on Elrond here. We'll talk about Elrond for a moment. Elrond is a fantastic character in The Lord of the Rings, my friends. He's one of my favorites. He's just utterly fantastic. He's done so much. He's been there a long time. So again, why does this say traitor about Saruman to Elrond? Well, Elrond is one of the White Council. There were 5 White Council members. Gandalf, Saruman, Elrond, Galadriel, and I believe it was Radagast? Or, no, I think it was Glorfindel before he was killed. I think that was the case, from what I remember in the books. All right, anyway, of course he's an enemy to Alatar, right? Or Sauron. Right. All right, good. And then, of course, his mother-in-law is Galadriel, again, because he married her daughter. His lord is Glorfindel, was his lord, of course, in the lore. Once his lord died, he became the Lord of Rivendell. But, again, Glorfindel was under the service of Glorfindel, and if people didn't know, in the Last Alliance, he was side by side with Glorfindel, who is the one that fights Sauron, right? All right. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Gandalf is one of his friends and trusted aides and allies. Obviously, he's one of the White Council with him. And then, of course, his sons, Elrohir and Eladin. Aragon is kind of like his adopted son. Again, it's kind of, like I said, with he was kind of brothers with Elrohir and Eladin growing up, even though they were a lot older than Aragorn. They helped him growing up. He's basically adopted him when his mother died, when Aragorn's mother died. All right, so, and then we have, so we talked about those people. We're going to move on. We think we'll talk about Galadriel now. I think that's a good one. So let's talk about Galadriel real quick, my friends. All right, Galadriel, subordinate, Haldir, of course. Again, traitor, that's the White Council thing with Saruman. Ally with Gil-galad, of course. Son-in-law, Elrond, also ally of White Council. Enemy, they obviously picked the most, they think is the most biggest tie, obviously. Enemy, of course, Sauron. Grandson-in-law, Aragorn when he's king. And granddaughter, Arwin. Sweet. Cool. Moving on. All right. Fantastic. We got to keep moving through this. Otherwise, the reason I'm talking so fast for you guys and going as quick as I can, because I want to get through all the characters without being here for too long. Because me and Veyron have more. And Veyron has a couple more. Veyron wants to talk about Aragorn now. So, Veyron, take it away. Tell us about Aragorn.
As you open up Tier 2 Aragorn's Relationship tab, you can see that all of his friends from the forming of the Fellowship of the Ring are included. Boromir, Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, Legolas, Gimli, Merry, and Pippin. The quest to destroy the One Ring brought them together, but also drove them from Frodo and Sam shortly thereafter. It did not give up the fight to help them though, and continued to fight for the cause. Along the way, they helped Rohan defend Helm's Deep, which is why Theodon is listed as an ally, who later came to answer Gondor's call for aid. Arwin, Aragorn's lover and eventual wife, is listed in the bottom left with her father, Elrond, shown in the bottom right as his adoptive father.
Fantastic. I love that. That was great. I like how you pointed out that stuff with Theodon and Helm's Deep too. Very good, very good. All right. So again, one other interesting thing, I already said this, but there is a difference, right, between Aragorn and the other one. They are basically the same character. There really is no big difference between the two. So let's just look real quick here. So I'm going to go over to talk about Frodo and Sam here real quick. Now, I hope I don't have to explain Frodo and Sam to you guys very much. Frodo and Sam are the two hobbits who did the horrible trek all the way to Mordor, carrying a horrible burden of the Ring of Power. And they were doing the very best. And they succeeded thanks to all their friends. And basically Sam's willpower to carry Frodo because he knew he couldn't carry the ring at the end, right? They do a good job showing that in the movies as well. All right. Anyway, again, friends with Aragorn, of course, Gandalf, basically all the Fellowship members. Friends with Pharamir. We're going to go straight into Pharamir now, all right? So we're going to pop over to Pharamir, and friends with Merry and Pippin, obviously Gimli and Legolas from the Fellowship, all right? Pharamir. This is very cool, okay? So Pharamir is a little bit portrayed differently in the movies. I still like the acting. I liked how he came around and then was really like an honorable, good character and realized it was more honorable to let Frodo and Sam continue their mission and to honor Boromir's sacrifice to protect them. But in the movies, he was portrayed a little less of an epic, awesome character as in the books. He is by far one of the coolest and most honorable characters in the books, and he did not take Frodo and Sam to Osgiliath. So very interesting for you people who might want to know that little tidbit. But again, his father is Denethor, the steward of Gondor. His lord is Aragorn II. Again, what Veyron just told us about Aragorn, same person, just a different hero, different tier of level, as Veyron pointed out. Tier 2, this is Tier 3, when he becomes king, and he has different abilities, okay? Enemy, Gothmog. The reason for that, we have an enemy from the other side, the evil side, is because Gothmog is the opposing commander of the Witch King's armies and Sauron's armies, that Faramir is always leading the Gondor side in Osgiliath. So I think that is their lore there. Elder brother is Boromir, if you did not know, and later, lo and behold, Arwen they become lovers and then get married, and he actually is reinstated as the backup steward of Gondor by Aragorn, which is very, very cool. And cool. So again, they're pretty awesome characters. Good tie in there together. And then one thing else I wanted to point out is that, of course, allies with Frodo and Sam. But to continuing on, we're not going to have Veyron explain Arwen to you guys. Oh no, nope, we already did Arwen. Sorry, I meant Eowyn or Eowyn, however you like to say it. All right, take it away, Veyron.
Eowyn is next. At the top, you can see that Grima is a traitor of Eowyn, as he was serving the Dark Lord whilst her adoptive father, Theodon, who is actually her uncle, was corrupted. This is shown in the top right. In the bottom right, it shows Pharamir, who, after Eowyn lusted after Aragon and failed, which is pretty cringy in the movies by the way, marries Pharamir instead. At the bottom, you see the Witch King, who Eowyn famously vanquished the line, "I am no man," after he had stated that no man can kill him. Finally, you have Eowyn's elder brother, Ymir, shown on the left, who often disapproved of her stubbornness and wanting to fight for her people.
Fantastic, and I completely agree with you, Veyron. It was rather cringy in the movie with that one part, but it was a little bit more subtle and more respectful in the books, the way they did it. But again, still, she's a great actor in the movie, as I'm sure you 100% agree with me, Veyron. But I agreed, it was cringy. All right, moving on, that she is a great character. One thing that's very interesting is, I want to say one more lore thing that I know about her, because this is just too cool. Glorfindel is the one that prophesied to the Witch King that he wouldn't be killed by any man, right? So then the Witch King thought he wouldn't be killed by an elf or a human or all these things, right? But Tolkien has a fun bit of fun with that, right? With what happens in the movies, which they portray pretty cool. One thing they do show in the movies, which I'm glad, is that when Merry stabs the Witch King in the leg with that blade, he got that blade originally from Tom Bombadil, which is not in the movies, right? It was a special blade forged by the Númenóreans of Arnor that designed to kill wraiths. So what happened was, when Merry stabs the Witch King in the leg, it hurts Merry. He gets knocked out, right? Well, in the books he doesn't, but in the movie he gets knocked out. And then it burns his arm, right? And basically what happens is it lowers the Witch King's invulnerability to being like immortal in the Ghost Realm. So that's why even better when she is the, excuse my word, badass character in the movies and books, and she's like, "I am no man," and she stabs him in the face, which is one of the best parts of the entire series, right? And then kills him. So yes, he was killed by both not a man, a woman, and by a hobbit. So it was very true. So Tolkien had some fun with that. But again, she technically wouldn't have been able to kill him if it wasn't for Merry working with her, so they were like a duo battle. But to kill the Witch King after so many 1,000 years, people have been trying to kill this evil, horrible monster. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I also love the part in the movie with her brother when he goes and sees her. As someone who has a younger sister, it gets me every time when he thinks she's dead. Ugh, terrible. All right, moving on. So let's jump into her older brother, Ymir. All right, Ymir is such a cool character. He is really cool. I believe he does marry. Yes, I believe he marries the daughter of Imrahil in the stories. So he becomes the king of Rohan after Theodon is killed in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and then he marries this daughter of Imrahil, and then becomes the king of Rohan because he is the nephew of Theodon, right? An adopted father. Theodon adopts both Eomer and Eowyn before, after their parents were killed. All right, sweet. Now you're knowing a little bit more about that. We're gonna hop over to Theodon now. Theodon. All right, Theodon has a lot going on here, guys. A lot, right? So adopted son, adopted daughter, his nephews, right? Traitor. Saruman is the one that basically turns on Rohan, had been allied for hundreds of years using the traitor Grima Wormtongue, who I will let Veyron talk about in a moment. Aragorn, obviously, his ally, which Veyron also pointed out. Merry and Pippin, they obviously help out Rohan too, but really it's Merry that's the ally, right? But they're combined unit in this game, so that's why they have both. Technically, Merry is the ally. He pledges his allegiance, where Pippin pledges his allegiance to Gondor and Denethor, right? You know that from the movies. All right, his enemy, the Witch King. I mean, it's the one that killed him, right? Though I'd like to point out that he did kill the Black Serpent of the I think it was it the Númenóreans or I think it was the Haradrim. Might have been a Black Númenórean, I don't remember. But he killed him. That was pretty cool. And then again, enemy. But this is a character that I do not believe is in the lore, Zegrig. So, not much to say about him, but let's see what they say about him. Zegrig is a Dunlingdin chieftain. Dunlingdin. So Dunlingdin is to the left or the west of Isengard, right? They have an ancient hatred with the Númenóreans that founded Arnor and Gondor because they were cutting all their trees down. And anyway, we might see that in the Amazon series coming out soon. Chieftain, who often leads his warband to destroy the plunder villages in the Gap of Rohan. He's the most respected leader in Dunland. Dabbles in the ancient tribal magic, and as such, is a direct threat to the House of Eor. Excuse me. Eorl. That's a hard one to say. But anyway, that is the Rohan house. Our household. Anyway, he's a cool character, though. Very cool. All right, So now we are going to talk about, I'm going to let Veyron talk about Grima Wormtongue, who is a very cool and evil character. Take it away, Veyron.
Grima is pretty self-explanatory. He was serving the Dark Lord whilst King Theodon was corrupted, fully turning on Rohan to join Saruman to join the Dark Lord's mission. This made him the enemy of Eomer, Eowyn, and Theoden.
Great explanation. Yes, he is a very, very corrupt Rohan man who turned on them. That is horrible. And if you do remember from the books, and I believe this is the case a little bit in the movies, he was slightly wanting to marry Eowyn, right? So that's a little even scarier, which everyone cringes at in the movie too, right? So again, we're now going to hop over to his lord and the traitor of Rohan and one of the traitors of the White Council, Saruman. All right, Saruman the White. Okay, my friends. So Saruman the White is obviously one of the 5 wizards. The 5 wizards being Gandalf, Saruman, Radagast, and the 2 blue wizards, which are not named in the lore of Tolkien. Be interesting if they make names for them or have them in the Amazon series, but we will find out. I'm not sure I would like or dislike that. We'll see. We'll see how they do it. All right, so continuing on, he's enemies with Radagast and Gandalf because he turns on them, right? Gandalf the Gray and White, same person. His subordinate is Grima, as Veyron pointed out. His other subordinates are 2 different orcs. One of them very prominent in the movies, the others not so much. Again, he is also enemies with Lothlorien, Rohan, and Rivendell, which are all their main leaders, Galadriel, Theodon, and Elrond. All right, so now some of his subordinates. Let's quickly talk about Shaku, this orc guy. Not much to do. He might be a named orc in the books. I really don't know off the top of my head. You're welcome to look that up. Again, we're doing this fast, and I'm firing these questions off. All right, another subordinate, Ulok. All right, so he's Lord. He is his leader is none other than the orc Lurtz from the, and he's the deputy of Lurtz apparently, according to that. He's also an ally with another orc, right? Another orc, and enemies, of course, with the hobbits that he helps take. He might be a named orc Urukai in the movie, I mean the books. I don't know off the top of my head, but it would be plausible that there'd be another deputy under Lurtz. All right, so again, he's got his 2 allies. We're gonna jump to Lurtz now though, because it's Lurtz. We know him all too well from the movies. Hated scum orc Urukai, who shoots Boromir from a distance. Honorless cur. Okay, anyway, you get the point. All right, so if you've seen the movies, you know what I'm talking about. A little different in the books, but pretty much the same thing. It's obviously enemy to Boromir. His lord is Saruman. His deputy is what we just talked about. Now we're going to talk about one of his allies, another orc, Utlok. Again, I'm not sure if he's a named orc in the stories. It's kind of hard. We have a little bit of info on them from here. Utlok's a bloodthirsty Urukai, so he is an Urukai warlord, a mighty berserker modeled by the treacherous wizard himself. He derived a ways for his axe to remain in a state of extreme heat. So interesting. To remain, ooh, that's interesting lore addition there. Principle of Isengard technology and a fearsome sight on the battlefield. Pretty sure he's a made up character for this game, but still a cool character. And then the same thing, let's see him, is a Urukai leader born in Isengard as one of the finest warriors in Orthanc. He is a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. I am Urlok, I command. All right, so that is him. That is my best voice I could do for him off the top of my head. All right, and then Grishnock. Now, this name seems a little bit more familiar. This might be from the books. Grishnock, Nick, I might be saying that right. It's Orcish, so Grishnock, something like that, is an orc captain from Mordor, sent by Sauron to retrieve what was lost. He is not as strong as his Urukai counterparts, but uses cunning to get what he wants. All right, so that's another one of the orcs. We are flying through this, my friends. I love it. All right, let's see who we haven't done. Boop, boop, boom. We've gone through all of these. We've done... We're going to go through these real quick. Done. Let's make sure we're getting through all the different characters. You're welcome to look at these yourself, of course. But we're having fun doing this as a lore video. Again, this is my first time using my new mic, so hopefully it sounds pretty good. I'm enjoying it. All right. So we did Frodo and Sam. We did not do Boromir. Let's look at Boromir real quick. Boromir is pretty self-explanatory. There's his famous horn. All right, again, his father is Denethor, his younger brother is Pharamir, his enemy, Lurtz, obviously, and he's friends with all the Fellowship, because he's in the Fellowship. Pretty self-explanatory. and he's the eldest son of Denethor II, Steward of Gondor. He technically would have been the Steward after Denethor, but of course he was killed in the Fellowship of the Ring, as we know. All right, moving straight along, we have talked about Theodon already, I believe. A little bit? Yes. He's the King of Rohan, an awesome character. We went over him already. Gandalf the Gray, a fantastic character. Many friends. Gandalf is a guide, hence why I put Gandalf on my artwork of my guide playlist for Lord of the Rings Online content. All right, so Gimli, Aragon, Merry and Pippin, Frodo and Sam, friends to Thorin Oakenshield II, Legolas, Elrond of Rivendell, Radagast the Brown, and the traitor Saruman the White, who was actually a very good guy for many thousands of years before he turned evil. And then, of course, Boromir. So, cool. Moving on. You all know Gandalf. I don't need to explain Gandalf. And then Denethor. We talked about Denethor a little bit. He is the 26th Steward of Gondor, ruler of the kingdom. By the way, there is a very interesting thing. They do stuff lore with their abilities. I find it very interesting that Pharamir has an ability called Last Steward, because he's the 27th Steward and the last of Gondor, because, of course, Aragorn's son later becomes king. But he is still the Steward under Aragon. All right. And then we have basically done all of these characters on this side. So we talk Gothmog. Let's talk about Gothmog just a little bit. We already mentioned him. Enemy to Pharamir because he's constantly battling. He's the ruling general, basically, of the Witch King's army. Gothmog is lieutenant of the Witch King of Angmar and a master commander. What he lacks in raw strength, which you see in the movies because he's a cripple, he makes up for with superior tactics. A very smart orc. That's a very scary thing, my friends. As an experienced orc leader, he especially despises men and elves and would like nothing more than to see their cities in ruins. And you continue reading yourself later. So, I'm now going to go over to the tavern here, and we are going to go into the thing, because I don't own anymore. I will just double check we went over most of the commanders today in our tabs. Alright, so we just did all those, correct. We did everyone there. We do everyone here? These are all the commanders that are in the game on the good side. I believe we did everyone here. We talked about Imrahil, yes. Did we do everyone here? We did not. There's a couple we did not do here. We did not do Thorin Oakenshield. Alright, so now a very interesting thing is you can't actually find his thing from here. So don't worry, we'll do it through the Commander tab. Alright, we'll do it through here. Click on Thorin. Thorin Oakenshield. You all know Thorin Oakenshield, the second Thorin, king under the mountain, who founded the Blue Mountains of Thorin's Hall, which we talk about lots in Lord of the Rings Online, and a lot of lore and stories from there. And then, of course, travels from the Blue Mountains of Ered Luin all the way back over the Misty Mountains to the Lonely Mountain near the Iron Hills on the other side of the world, at least the known Middle-earth world. So, very cool. He's a great character. Again, distant relatives to all of these other characters. His cousin, distant cousin, is Dane, which is why he becomes king after both him and his two nephews, right, Fili and Kili, are both killed, which is very sad, and allies with the elves of Mirkwood later. Not always been allied, but allies at the end, right? And then, of course, there's Gandalf. All right, let's talk about Thranduil, since he's another tier 3 hero. He is the king of the Woodland Realm in Mirkwood. Very different from Lothlorien or Rivendell or Lindon, all those other elf groups. And his son is the famous Legolas, which we all know and love. We didn't really talk about Legolas very much, did we? So let's talk about Legolas real quick. Legolas is obviously good friends with our friend Gimli, and he actually becomes so good friends with Gimli that this is one thing I'd like to add, is that when he goes to the Undying Lands, he actually first, after the Fellowship, the end of the Return of the King movie, he goes with him to the Glittering Caves, which are behind Helm's Deep, if you know this, and starts a new realm with Gimli, and they create a realm for dwarves and some elves. And they remake the Glittering Caves into a beautiful place, which is really cool. I love that. And then not just that, he travels to the Undying Lands. He's the only dwarf known in the known history that Tolkien told us to go to the Undying Lands with Legolas, which was pretty cool. And I think it's because he had an in with Galadriel. I'm pretty sure Galadriel was like, yeah, let that dwarf come. He's pretty awesome. And he was in the Fellowship who helped destroy the ring and save Middle-earth, right? All right, again, friends with everyone else in the Fellowship. We're not going to go through more of that. All right, sweet, sweet, sweet. We need to talk about Glorfindel. We have not talked about Glorfindel. This is a very important character. So, and we also didn't talk about Elrond. So, let's go over here. I have to find my way to them with the web. Just there is Elrond. We actually did talk about Elrond. What am I saying? We didn't talk about Glorfindel, though. So we're going to talk about Glorfindel right now. Glorfindel is allies with Lothlorien. He was the Lord of the Noldor for a very long time, which we're not going to go into deep lore like that. And of course, enemies with Sauron. He is actually killed by Sauron in the last Alliance battle, but also kills Sauron. He is the killer of Sauron, right? Along with Isildur's father, Elend. Elend? No, that's his son. That's Elrond's son. Drawing a blank, excuse me. Isildur and his father. His father are the ones that killed Sauron. Goodness, I'm drawing a blank. We'll move on. Forgive me for that one. All right, so, and again, of course, his deputy is Elrond before he is killed, and then Elrond becomes the Lord of Rivendell. And Círdan is one of the leaders of Lindon and, the Grey Havens later. Which would be a cool character, which I believe they might be bringing out in RiseToWar soon. Gil-galad is the High King of the Elves of the West, and was respected by both the Noldor and the Sindar, though he was the Lord of the Noldor, I believe. On both sides of the Misty Mountains, a formidable commander, an inspirational leader, he formed the last alliance of men and elves with Eladin. There it is, Eladin. That I knew it was. I was saying it right. Eladin is the father of Isildur, right? And was the king of Arnor when Isildur, his son, was the king of Gondor, the southern kingdom. Arnor was the northern kingdom, right? All right, there we go. But they were both killed by Sauron as they killed Sauron. All right, sweet, good, a little different than the movies. Now that we've done that, one person we haven't talked about is the undead king, the Oathbreaker. This is a good one. We got to talk about this one real quick. So first things first, how do I get to the Oathbreaker king? This is the tricky part, my friends. This is the tricky part indeed. All right. Figured out. All right. There it is. Here he is right here. So he's a subordinate of Aragorn II. Now, why is this? What were the king Oathbreakers? What were they? You might wonder this as a RiseToWar player if you don't know the lore of the stories. Well, he was cursed by Isildur and his whole people because when they asked for aid, when Sauron first attacked Gondor, they ran to the mountains, these mountain men. They didn't come to help. So he cursed them to never rest until they help. That's why they're undead Oathbreakers, right? Why they're ghosts. So that's very cool. And of course, Aragorn comes to them and says, I call you to fulfill your oath to the king of Gondor. And he's like, I have no one except for the king of Gondor. And Aragorn's like, that blade has been reforged, right? Have you seen the movies? Pretty awesome moment. The king of the dead leads the dead men of Dunharrow, the Oathbreakers who betrayed Isildur when they failed to help him fight Sauron as promised, as we just talked about. But again, a very cool character. All right, so, wow, you guys, we have flown through that, and every commander with lore. How exciting. That is very exciting. I believe we talked about all of them now. And the only person we didn't do is Radagast. Gandalf the White, we looked at a little bit. Remember, Gandalf the White is pretty much Gandalf the Gray. He's the same relations in the relation tabs. Radagast, not much of a difference in the relations tab. I don't think I talked about him very much, but he really doesn't have, like, much, right? Same, he's Radagast, right? He does a lot more in the books than he does in the movies, but he's definitely a lover of animals, and he really doesn't like being around people and elves and dwarves. He helps, but he doesn't really care as much about that. He wants to take care of the forest and the animals, which he does do pretty well. But again, that's one of the reasons why Saruman doesn't like him, because he feels like he doesn't try to take an initiative, and that's what the whole point of the five wizards were, to help the world. So, but he does help in his ways. He does. A little more in the books than in the movies. But again, very cool. By the way, Radagast is the one, I believe, who sent Gwaihir the Eagle to save Gandalf from Orthanc in the movies, which they don't say in the movies. All right, sweet. Well, my friends, look at that. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any for you guys. You're awesome if you're still here. I really appreciate it. It was really fun to have us on here today. I really was happy to host Veyron, and it's really fun to do this collaboration together on a video. And I'd be happy to do one with you in the future, Veyron, if you'd like. All right, and then I believe we have gone through all the characters here. Galadriel we know about. Good, we're set. Now we're going to just quickly talk over the evil characters. They don't quite have as much lore. They do, but not quite as much. We know we went over Saruman. We went over Sauron's form, his fair form. The Witch King of Angmar is the servant of the Dark Lord, one of the 9 ring wraiths, right? They've added some new characters. I do not believe this is named the Undying. It's one of the 9 wraiths. I believe is what they're doing in the lore, but he is an unnamed one because they only named 2. They named Kamul and the Witch King and one other wraith, I believe, the Nine. This is she is a very interesting character and her tree lore. Let's see if I can get to her through the other ones. There is some tricks to get to them through the one, but let's just go over here. All right, let's go to, there we go. And then we're gonna go over to, so Deputy. So this is actually Kamul. This is one of the named ring wraiths, right? One of the named ring wraiths. Very cool character, right? In the name, he's technically an Easterling king that turned into a ring wraith because Sauron, bound by the ring, all these bound by the ring. Now, interestingly enough, the way it's saying bound by the ring, I believe that's because they're bound as in they're bound by the One Ring. I believe these other Nazgul they've added in the game, even though they're unnamed from the books, are supposed to be some of the 9, I believe. They're not just random wraiths. Remember, wraiths can be created that are lesser wraiths than the 9. Like the Witch King, you know, when Frodo gets stabbed, Aragon's like, he's going to turn into a wraith, right, in the movie. Well, he'd be a lesser wraith, but still a wraith. So there are wraiths. They can turn into people in wraiths, but I believe these are supposed to be the 9. So again, the Undying is one. Quirnwan. I don't think this is a named one. I think they made this one's name up, I believe, in here. Not a lot of info on that for you guys. If you want to look it up, you can. We're not going to take too much longer. The Shadow, again, just another one they just named. And then we're going to pop back over here, and the leader of the 9, the Witch King, the most powerful one. Very scary. And then, of course, his deputy is Kamul. He's enemies with, of course, Arwin, Rohan, Gandalf the White, his lord, it's Sauron, right? His lord is Sauron, obviously. And then his subordinate, Gothmog, his commander. Another subordinate, which we talked about already, Azog. His allied with this person, who I am going to let Veyron take away and talk about the subordinate here of the Witch King. Take it away, Veyron.
Next up, we have Adune. Adune doesn't actually exist in the lore itself and is one of the few original characters created by the developers of the game. She has an ally in Agzok, but not much is known about their relationship. However, her lord, the Witch King, has a lot better of an explanation behind it. If you switch over to her lore tab, you can see how they came up with her character. Adune is the Witch King's most trusted lieutenant in the war against the kingdoms of men. An accomplished commander, she also enjoys fighting in the front lines, cutting enemies with her scythe, which earned her the title Reaper of Angmar. Adune is a 73-year-old black Numenorian who entered the service of the leader of the Ringwraith even before he founded the kingdom of Angmar, met the Witch King of Angmar in Umbar, and joined his service. Traveled with the leader of the Ringwraith to the far north of the world, reaching the Bay of Furishel. Helped establish the kingdom of Angmar.
Oh, very nice explanation. So anyway, she's a pretty cool character. Again, I want to pop back to Azog. He, I believe, is like the Azog you see in... there's a little bit of... Azog in the Hobbit movies was kind of added in from another character from other parts of the lore. So again, some people didn't like that. I thought it was still... It made the movie move is what their goal was. I really liked the Hobbit. The only thing I didn't really care for too much was the love triangle thing, which I'm sure you all know about. But again, some people really like that, so I'm not going to say anything against it. But again, a frightening sight for enemies and allies alike. Azog's reputation precedes him, corrupted by none other than the Witch King of Angmar. He wields his axe like death itself. Alright, so he's a pretty cool looking character though. And now that we've gone through that, and those characters, that was a great explanation again, Veyron, of this character, Adune. She's a very cool lore character. I do like how they're trying to add more characters for the dark evil side. They want to balance it, so they're doing a very good job of adding more and more in there. So there we go. The Witch King. I believe. Let's go look at the thing over here, and we'll see if there's any more to add on here. All right, so we're gonna go to the evil side here. Tier 2. We talked about these orcs. They're the Urukai, right? We talked about that one. The Nazgul, her. All right, the Black Mouth, and one other. I'm just going to tell you without going to the tab about the Black Mouth real quick. So obviously, we believe he's a Black Numenorian from the lore, but it's never quite said. It's shown in the movies. I like how they portrayed him in the movies, but he's interesting and scary and freaking awesome. And of course, is the Mouth of Sauron, which is his title here. But that means he is the spokesperson of Sauron. That's why we assume he's a Black Numenorian. Very scary indeed. He's basically like one of the main leaders, obviously, under Sauron then, which is pretty darn cool. All right. And then, none other, we cannot forget to talk about this character. Okay, this character and his relationship tab. I can do that actually from our actual relationships tab because I have that character here. Oh, if I can click the right button. It's always good to click the right button, my friends. Indeed. Oh, you know what? Maybe I didn't get him. Oh, that's okay. All right. So you do have to own the characters to get to relationships tab, and since the evil side have very tight little circles, it's gonna be a little more challenging to get it for you guys. So what we're gonna do, my friends, is I'm just gonna tell you about a couple of the last ones and finish this up right now. So we talked about Azog, that one, right? These were both evil ones. The Gothmog. This is one of Mordor's subordinate characters. He's very cool. Got some info. Gothmog is an orc commander. Here's the information right here of his lore. It's rare for orcs to live long. Thus, Gothmog's great age should be reason enough to fear him. Truly a survivor, he gained much experience fighting the forces of Gondor and rose through the ranks thanks to his ruthless cunning. All right, so there's Gorbag, who's one of the enemies of Mordor. This one, Shagrat. All right, now, I believe Shagrat is a named orc in the stories. Yes, I believe he is one of the named orcs. Shagrat is an Urukai warrior of the kind serving Sauron, and has such come from the western lands of Mordor. Like most of his kin, he's known only by the vile brutishness of his life, and so on and so forth. So he's a very scary boy. Scary orc, or Urukai in that case, I guess, according to that. And then we're going to talk about a couple Easterlings. Very cool characters. Again, I can't really see their tree because they're a tight-knit tree. They're probably all the Easterlings are together. The 4, or the 3 or 4. So, and I can't see it because I don't know any of them to click the tree. But that is okay. So we have Yrsair. Oh gosh. This name. This is a tricky one because I've never heard anyone say it. I believe it is Ysrae. Something like Ysrae. She's obviously a made-up character of Easterling. I do not believe there's many named Easterlings unless she's in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, but she is looking very cool. Ysrae is a Haradrim. Oh, I'm sorry, she's not an Easterling, she's a Haradrim. I don't know why they have her placed on the Easterling side, but we'll let that slide on the map there, RiseToWar. Haradrim warlord from the southern land near Harad. In the past, a part of Middle-earth, that only way to learn respect of one's people is to achieve glory in battle. Thus, Ysrae has to slay countless enemies and outperform her rivals to carve out a place in the top command of the Haradric chain of command. Very cool. Again, she should be down here. Near Harad is down here on the map. I don't know why they have her up there. That's all right, though. All right, let's see. We got Cladoon, who might actually be a named character in the books. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. Again, we're doing these fast and I'm going through these real quick. I didn't go ahead and study every evil hero here. Cladoon is a Haradrim war hero that fought in the countless battles against Gondor. Originally from Harondor, he traveled to the Khan in the east, so he was from the south of Mordor, Harad. Learn the ways of the spear. And there we go, we got a lot of cool more info here. After many years, training returned to Haradric charge in the northern Harondor and Ithilien, a swift warrior. Cladoon's reputation precedes him wherever he goes, and as such, no enemy wants to face him on the battlefield. He's a very cool looking character. Very cool indeed. All right, we'll start with this one. Now, Maltuk possibly is a named character from the books. Maltuk is the Beast Lord. He's a great commander and a master tamer. In battle, he sends out hounds and wargs. Maybe he's not. I don't think he is. But anyway, another cool Easterling character. Now we're going to jump over to the tier 2s. We've gone through all the tier 2s. I want to talk about this one since I couldn't find him for you. This is Azukor, which I have a video on if you want to know about his traits. I have another YouTuber I've done stuff with. We've talked about different trait things with how to build characters. If you want to check those out, just let you guys know that. But Azukor is a made-up character. I believe, in my opinion, he's a nod to Peter Jackson. If you've watched the films, in the part where Aragon asks Legolas to shoot a warning shot past the Bowman's ear, the boat ship leader guy. Gimli bumps his bow and it shoots past the guy and hits the guy behind him, right? And he's like, ah! He like falls over, right? And gets killed. That was Peter Jackson in The Return of the King, dressed up. Looks a lot like him here. That's my guess. So, cool character. A leader of Umbar, basically the pirates, who are Umbar used to be Gondor and not in mixed with Haradrim and Black Numenorians. It's a sketchy place. We might see it maybe in the Amazon series. That'd be pretty cool. All right, and then we already talked about the Witch King, Sauron, and we talked about this other ring wraith they made up, the Undying, which is one of the 9 apparently. Last 3, we're gonna talk about these 3 real quick, and we will be finished, my friends. So we have Karun, who is a very cool-looking Easterling. The Sand King is a great leader of the Easterlings' armed forces, a noble whose deeds include leading countless battles from atop his war chariots, which they are famous for in the actual lore. So, very cool character. Karun, I believe is how you say it. Or Kirun, possibly. Or Kirun. I'm not quite sure how you say it. I've never heard someone say it, but I believe that's how. Alright, Baruthiel. This is a very cool character that they made as bad guy. She was married to one of the kings of Gondor. Queen Baruthiel is a noble from Umbar. I'll just read this because I already knew this, but who wedded the king of Gondor. She's a famous figure in the history of men for her rumored use of dark magic and her 10 cats, 1 white and 9 black, who'd spy on her subjects and report their findings to her. She eventually was exiled from Gondor and returned to the south, never to be seen again. Off the top of my head, I thought it was 1 black cat and 9 white. Maybe not. Might have that backwards. I don't know. Not sure. Double check me, guys. And double check them. RiseToWar. But anyway, cool character, cool evil leader. I thought it was very cool they added her in. And then the Black Serpent. This is a named figure in the books. The Black Serpent, a Haradrim commander from the far Harad, has led the Haradrim against Gondor in many battles. He's known for his strategic mind and ability to survey the battlefield and deliver orders from atop a giant Mumakil, who is the one that I believe in the movies Éomer throws the spear and stabs him and he falls off, right? You remember that in the movies? I believe this is that same character. The Black Serpent also is probably the one in the books that Theodon kills, I believe, who is the main leader. Or maybe it was a different named leader. I might be. Or was the golden something? But anyway, my friends, I think we've done it. I think we've gone through all the lore. And now you know how to use the family tab. How exciting is that, my friends? So then quickly, I want to just let our friend here. All right. Anyway, let's let Veyron want to say something real quick for you guys.
Thanks so much for hosting this and allowing me to come on the channel. Veyron out.
Absolutely, Veyron. I'm really happy to host this, and if you want to do anything in the future again, I'd be happy to do that. Maybe we could do something if you want to host something. But again, this was fantastic. Thank you for joining me, Veyron. Thank you, everyone else, for joining me today on Voice of the Rings. I am your hosting guide, Zollin Ironshield. As always, we've gone through all the characters in RiseToWar. Pretty fun indeed. That was fantastic. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. It was fun using my new microphone and new system. Oh, indeed it was. And I hope it sounds great for you guys. And I will see you in the next episode of Voice of the Rings. I just want to quickly, for my viewers, I want to shout out and thank my Patreons over here on the side, my 2 Patreons. You guys are fantastic. And definitely a shout out to MrRevel, who is now a royal level Patreon. So, royal god level. So I appreciate that, MrRevel. Thank you so much. And this was really fun to do this with Veyron. Veyron, I really appreciate you coming on when I asked you. This is pretty cool, and having this idea, Veyron. It was a blast to do it with you. And hopefully we can do some more content in the future together. And again, thank you everyone for joining me. I'm gonna have links down there in the description to Veyron's channel, as well as some stuff of mine. If you want to check it out, go check out. Give Veyron a like, a subscribe, check out the video on his channel as well. Don't forget, if you're on Veyron's channel, maybe you want to come over and subscribe to Voice of the Rings too, that'd be awesome. You guys have a wonderful day in Middle-earth, and this was a pleasure, my friends. It was a pleasure indeed. And RiseToWar is a great game, and I like that they're trying very hard to stay to lore, but at the same time, not mess everything up. So, and get new characters in the game. So it's pretty darn awesome. And again, thank you everyone. You have a wonderful day in Middle-earth. Zollin out.